Hey y'all, how's it going? John the Bookkeeper here, welcoming you to my first episode, or video, put on my YouTube channel, Bookkeeping Awesomeness. I'm looking forward to talking about all sorts of stuff on this channel, but this first video is about law enforcement abuse. I have been placed under custody, under arrest, on two occasions. The first occasion in January of 2005 by the Austin Police Department, and in December of 2005 by the Atlanta Police Department. When I was arrested by Austin Police, I was held in custody by Travis County deputies, and when I was arrested by the Atlanta Police, I was held in custody by Fulton County deputies. In both instances, I was under emotional duress, and I was threatened and assaulted and had it covered up. So, I want to talk about that. I am also the bookkeeper of 4 smoke shops down here in the Rio Grande Valley, the Good Times Smoke Shop Edinburgh, Good Times Smoke Shop La Jolla, there's one in McAllen, and we got one in Westlaco. Due to some confusions apparently with the Secretary of State when Carlos and I were filing the certificate of formation for his Westlaco location, it's not actually considered by the state of Texas to be the Good Times Smoke Shop Westlaco, but rather the Good Times Smoke Ship Westlaco. So if you have a fondness for smoking on your boat, you'll want to hit up our Westlaco location. Not only is it my 2 stories, I mean, working at a smoke shop, like I said, I got a whole bunch of my friends have been taken into custody, so I've got some stories about what they went through. And also just perusing the public record. I've been on Busted Newspaper every day for the past 3 years because I've just had this, I've just wanted to look at mugshots and understand, because my 2 mugshots, the idea of having mugshots traumatized me so much, I didn't Google my name for like 14, 15 years. Knowing that I had a mugshot just made me, I thought it was that I hated myself and that I was ashamed and I was embarrassed. But I believe now that it is because of the emotional trauma I suffered while I was in custody that my subconscious has been unable to approach, if you will, the law enforcement side of things, because I am just aware of how they will hurt you. And so, as much as I would love for this video to take off, I really just need to get something out there that will say, this is what I've seen law enforcement do to me, this is what they've done to my friends, and this is what I suspect they're doing to other folks who they have had in their custody. And I've got a few suggestions of what I think might be necessary to adjust what I believe is the underlying issue for law enforcement abuse, which is the narcissism of these folks with badges. There's just something that goes on in the training that makes them think they're so special that they separate themselves from even a perception of a common humanity with the souls who are in their custody. And since they don't even see them as being human, in effect, there is constructive permission in their psyches to treat those who are perceived as other selves very, very poorly. So, let me go ahead and get going on what I went through in Travis County. Okay. I was a student at the University of Texas at Austin, working on my master's degree in taxation. I'm not exactly an idiot. When I was accepted into the University of Texas at Austin Master's in Taxation program, it was ranked #1 in the nation for the 11th consecutive year. A week before classes started, I was in a car accident. I was driving from Auburn, Alabama into San Antonio, Texas, and the car in front of me hit their brakes hard. I didn't want to rear end them. I veered to the right, smashed into a guardrail at 60 miles an hour, and by the grace of God, suffered no significant physical injury. There was a scar on my chin that I can barely see now. But apparently there was a strong emotional reaction, because a week later I just felt I had trouble eating, I was anxious. Going to class was difficult for me. I didn't want to go to class, and if anyone knew me in undergrad at Auburn, they would be like, what? Because I believe that for the 4 years that I was in Auburn, I got a degree in accounting with a minor in math, graduating summa cum laude while tutoring anywhere between 10 and 20 hours a week at the athletic department. And I couldn't study anymore. After that car accident, something just in me was like, not going to work, can't study, which for me was just crushing, because that's what I could always do. I was always able to study and work and do well on tests, but that car accident messed me up. And I had gone to the University of Texas at Austin Student Health Services Center because before I enrolled, I remember reading over what services they offer the students. There's a healthcare service, and there's also psychiatrists available. So I had seen a cognitive behavioral therapist 7 times before I moved to Austin because I was aware I had anxiety issues, and this guy told me it's major OCD, and you got anxiety. You know, I'd recommend 20 milligrams of Lexapro to just take away that anxiety you feel so you can get through life. Now, this psychiatrist at the University of Texas at Austin was incredibly rude. She would not look me in the eyes. She was condescending. She was arrogant. A lot of distance. Very difficult to imagine even opening up to someone like this. But that's what I got paired up with. And because this is system-provided healthcare, they don't provide you they don't even give you information on how you could change to a different doctor who didn't make you feel like you were a piece of crap. She was awful, and she put me on so many pills. She put me on Geodon, which is an atypical antipsychotic, telling me it was just to tranquilize the mind. And what terrified me is, because when she would not give me any information on what she thought was going on, it was just throwing pills at me. So I began to buy books and try to understand what was going on. And as I was reading about schizophrenia, a symptom of a diagnosis for schizophrenia involves psychosis, and psychosis is a breach from reality where the individual is not able to perceive reality as reality. And one of the things that psychiatrists look for to assert a diagnosis of, or to assert that there is a symptom of psychosis which would justify a diagnosis of schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, schizophreniform, all sorts of stuff out there. But they all involve a psychosis which is a breach from reality. And one of the things they look for is disorganized speech. Now, in the book that I was reading about psychosis, the example they gave of disorganized speech was just, I would call it a tumble. The person was not making any sense. There was no connection of the thoughts. Now, when I was speaking to this doctor, and there was the psychologist, who I love cognitive behavioral therapy, that stuff helped me tremendously. And this psychiatrist just would, it was as if she would not listen to me. She was just looking at her checklist and just asking her questions. And I can remember during this evaluation period, I was talking really, really, really fast, and then I would quiet down to collect my thoughts, and then I would talk really, really fast again to try and make sure I got the point across and had nothing to say, so I'd slow down. My point is that my speech might have been fast-paced and quick, but I made logical, understandable statements. Now, of course, she would come through and say, well, he was crazy. But my fear is that in those official medical notes, she wrote disorganized speech, which means some other expert who comes in there to read my medical file will see disorganized speech, know that it is connected to psychosis, say he must have been psychotic, and therefore would have had a diagnosis of schizophrenia, schizoaffective, schizophreniform, something like that. So I have an issue with psychiatrists and just how specialized they are in their expert status. Because if this doctor had in fact put that lingo in my medical record, it would be an inaccurate representation of what my mental state was at that time. And so that's what got this started, was in August of 2004, when I made the mistake of going to the University of Texas at Austin Student Health Center. Now, in January of 2005, I made the mistake of having a few beers and calling the University of Texas at Austin counseling line. I was not suicidal at the time. I remember talking about being depressed and having been suicidal in the past and nervous. Now, when you've had alcohol, you are impulsive, and so they called the cops to take me out of my apartment. Now, I can understand not wanting someone who is depressed and who has been drinking to be left alone. I understand why you would not want that to happen, because the impulsivity of alcohol could lead someone to do something stupid. So I am not arguing with being taken out of my apartment if the system felt I needed to just be kept safe until I sobered up and then released, so I would no longer be a risk to myself. That's cool. What I'm disagreeing with is the fact that the Travis County Jail has an L-shaped corridor floor plan where the Travis County deputies conspire against people who have been taken into custody to throw an additional charge of assault against a peace officer against them, which is a felony. Let me explain to you what goes on. I'm taken into custody. I had never been arrested before, and apparently you're not supposed to talk when you are under arrest. Sorry, didn't know. I like to behave myself. And so I'm taken into custody, and then this female deputy with Travis County tells me I gotta show her my butthole. I'm not exactly thrilled about that, because I called a counseling line after having a few beers from the privacy of my apartment, and I'm told I'm getting arrested and I'm gonna get booked for public intoxication. So I'm not exactly thrilled. And I tell this woman, get your boss. And she looks at me and gets her sergeant, and he says, I gotta go through this. So she gets to see my butthole. And my guess is that she was so pissed about the attitude I had given her that she tells the other deputy to give me the works or whatever it is. And this is what they do. It's an L-shaped corridor. They take you down the short L, and it's a narrow hallway, gray walls, and there's a door at the end. And this guy he is up against me. He's got one foot behind my heel. He's got another foot on top of my left foot, and he is up against me. The guy is on me, pushing on me. And I even say, could you please get off of me? Shut up. And we're going down this little L hall, and this guy is on me. He is up against me totally unreasonably. No reason for him to be pushing up on me like that. We go through the doors of the short L, and then we turn down another hallway. All sorts of clicks and all this stuff to add an intimidation factor to it. The long-shaped L corridor, at the end of it's a door, and then there's a glass window in this door, and in that other room is a booth with another deputy in this glass booth who's looking through the hallway, the door of this long L-shaped hallway. And then the guy takes you down that one as the one in the booth is watching, and the one who's up against you starts rubbing up and down on you like this. The guy's going nuts on me, and then it occurs to me, holy crap, this guy's trying to get me to hit him so they can charge me with assaulting a peace officer, which would have been a felony, wiping out any hopes I had of a career, considering I was working on a master's degree in taxation at the #1 program in the country at the time. And so I realized, right like the last 10 feet of this torture session they're putting me through here, this conspiracy, that they're trying to hit me with another felony. They're trying to hit me with a felony. Because they already told me that this public intoxication charge was just going to be dismissed because I was in my apartment, but they needed an excuse to keep me in custody. And now they're trying to throw a felony charge on me. And so I realized this was happening. And so this guy's going to town up here on me, and I just told myself, glue your right hand to your leg. And as this guy is going to town on me in the last 5 feet as we approach that door, as the other deputy is watching, I just scream out, "You're hurting me! You're hurting me! You're hurting me!" And then the guy wrenches at my arm, and I scream at the top of my lungs, "Ouch!" We pass into the next room, and there are 2 women sitting there who I assume had just gotten the same treatment. I wasn't going to put up with that. And so while that guy who had just rubbed me up and down goes to fill out paperwork with the douchebag with the badge who's in the